Today's lesson is talking back to the text. Readers, I'm used to seeing highway signs that tell me how to travel. Yellow lights, green lights, stop signs, signs indicating there's a curve ahead. Our work together has made me aware that texts, like highways, have signs that tell people how to travel, and that expert fiction readers read with their brains turned on high. They read with grit to notice those signs. We've talked about how sometimes the text gets readers to envision, to live in the world of the story. Maybe the character is creeping up quietly to the door and peering through the crack, and readers creep right along with the character and lean down to put their own eyes to the crack. Sometimes that moving image comes to a halt, and readers know the author wants to fill them in on important information. So they shift gears and start listing facts about the story. Sometimes the text signals, uh-oh, something's going to happen, and readers predict. Today, I want to remind you that texts don't signal only for readers to envision or list or predict. Texts also signal readers to think, huh? And then to ask questions. Often those questions are, how could and why? Then readers muse over possible answers, rereading and rethinking. So, readers, let's revisit a passage that signals readers this way, signals them to think, huh? This is the part when little Willie is trying to decide whether to sell the farm or attempt to save it. As I read, pay attention to how you react to the text, and specifically whether you find yourself asking questions. The next day, little Willie talked to everybody he could think of. He talked with his teacher, Miss Williams. He talked with Lester at the general store. He even talked with Hank, who swept up over at the post office. They all agreed. Sell the farm. That was the only answer. There is only one person left to talk to. If only he could. Should we sell? Little Willie asked. Palm up meant yes. Palm down meant no. Grandfather's hand lay motionless on the bed. Searchlight barked. Grandfather's fingers twitched, but that was all. Things looked hopeless. Are you thinking like me? Are you thinking, huh? How could grandfather, little Willie's only family, not even signal with his hand to answer the question? How could grandfather ignore little Willie so much when so much is at stake? And when his grandson needs him more than ever? Why doesn't grandfather give little Willie, who has the weight of this huge burden on his 10-year-old shoulders, some guidance? Thumbs up if you're responding that way too. So let's spend some time musing over these questions and see if we can come up with possible answers. So the first thing that I'm realizing is that there aren't any easy answers. We don't know much about grandfather. He hasn't said a word yet, and here he's barely even moving. So these are times when it helps to go back into the story. The answer doesn't lie in only this part of the text, in grandfather's twitching fingers, though that does give a little bit to go on. Grandfather isn't ignoring little Willie, right? He's just not giving him an answer. If we want to understand how he could react this way, we need to dig deeper. What do we know about grandfather? So, in the first chapter, Doc Smith says grandfather has given up on life and he wants to die. But he's been signaling to little Willie to help him out until now. So, might this be a sign that he's finally given up? Or might there be another reason that grandfather isn't responding? We know he loves little Willie. He took him in when little Willie's mother died. He's depressed, yes, and he owes a lot of taxes, but Would he really abandon his grandson? Oh, I have an idea. Let's look at another time when little Willie asked grandfather to signal an answer with his hands. Maybe we can find something there that will shed light on this part. Here's one that I found. This is when little Willie asked grandfather about his plan to use his college money for help. Listen to this. And then little Willie remembered something. His college money. He had enough to rent a horse, pay for help, everything. He told grandfather about his plan, but grandfather signaled no. Little Willie pleaded with him, but grandfather just repeated, no, no, no. Now that doesn't sound like a person who's given up. That's a powerful no. He seems as determined as his grandson. Might it be that grandfather just doesn't have the answer this time? Maybe the twitching finger is his way of showing that. Maybe he's hoping little Willie can figure this one out on his own. Maybe he even trusts little Willie to find the right answer. Readers, do you see how I asked questions when the text signaled me to, and then how I revisited earlier parts of the text that seemed connected and used my grit to do some more thinking about grandfather and what might explain his surprising reaction to little Willie? Asking questions and then looking back in the book to try to answer them stretched my thinking. If I had just stayed in this one moment, I may not have thought deeply enough. When the text signals you to ask questions, it helps to reread and to rethink. So, readers, as you go off to read on your own today, I know you'll be open to asking questions. From now on, whenever you read, hold on to that curiosity. You may reach a part that does expect you to question. You may instead find yourself envisioning or listing facts or predicting, or maybe you'll do a mix of those things. Often the text expects readers to do lots of kinds of work. Whatever you find yourself doing as you read, take note of this and then jot it down. You can put it in your reader's notebook or on a Post-it note. Spy on yourself as a reader and admire the ways in which your grit has allowed you to grow as a reader. All right, off you go.